Well, hello everybody. Pastor Randy here. Welcome back to Making It Simple. We're going to jump back into our lesson. So we've been talking about holding on to our faith in the storm. So we've left Jesus. He's praying. It tells us that he's gone up into the mountain and he's praying and he's all alone. But meanwhile, this goes on to verse 24. We're out of Matthew chapter 14, verses 22 through 33. We're looking at the story of Jesus walking on the water in an entirely different context of how we've traditionally been given this story, because we oftentimes focus on the supernatural event of the physical walking on the water, but that's not what's important. Because God can do anything. That is not the focal point of the story. And I'm going to show you why I say that. We find Jesus praying, of course, as we left off yesterday. And I ask, is that how you prepare? Because Jesus was preparing for something. Okay? And it tells us in the next verse, it says in verse 24, meanwhile. So what does that word mean? Again, every word matters. Now, again, we can get into the complicated argument of which version of the Bible are you reading, Pastor? Here's what's important. What is God saying? What does the story point us to? Well, everything goes back to our relationship with God. Are we focused on that? Are we mindful of what it is that he's trying to get us to understand? In my daily prayers today, here's what I was convicted of. I'm always praying for wisdom. Always. I pray for that every day. But God convicted me of something today, and I'm just being very open and transparent with you, my beautiful audience. Wisdom is the application of knowledge. And what I felt really, really compelled and convicted of today is being very careful of what you learn. Because it is only what you learn that you can apply. And if what you learn is not correct, if what you learn is not true, you are not applying knowledge. Therefore, you are not attaining wisdom. Very important. So what we find is, as this story is unfolded, as this story is given to us, it says here in how I'm reading it, it says, meanwhile. Now, while that word's important, why is that word important? So during this very same time, Jesus is preparing. Jesus is praying and seeking counsel. While in this same time, it says, meanwhile, the boat. Now, you're thinking, well, wait a minute. Are we really going to break down every word? To a degree, yes, because the compelling nature of storytelling is that every word matters. See, even if it's one line out of a script, if it's one pivotal scene in the movie, you'll always be drawn back to that every single time. Well, Scripture, oftentimes the ones that make the big proclamation about their expository teaching. Now, be very, very careful with that word, because oftentimes what the one claiming that is trying to point you toward is their great knowledge versus what the story's saying. Two very, very different things. See, I'm not trying to prove anything about my intelligence, because it is limited at best, as is all of ours. However, when we begin to understand the logic of Scripture, the logic of the Bible in its entirety, from Genesis to Revelation, it's life. That's the story, the beginning, the end, and everything that happens in the middle. The cast of characters that you meet, the ups, the downs, the goods, the bads, the uglies, it's all there. Okay? So as we look at this story, each word matters. Meanwhile, while Jesus is praying and seeking, the boat, the very ones that he told the disciples to get into and go ahead. So they're in there, right? The boat, it tells us, the one carrying the disciples, is well on its way. We read, if we continue in that, we read that it has reached now a distance from the land. Now, we can look at that in two different ways. I want us to see this in the literal, okay? It has now reached a point beyond the shore. How does that relate to life? Okay, now this is indeed, as it says, it has reached a distance from the land. All right, meanwhile, the boat was already some distance from the land. This is speaking of not being in a visibly safe place. What do you mean, Pastor? Uncertainty. A place of doubt. A place of being unprepared for what is coming. In other words, hear me. If you are in your raft, in your canoe, in your kayak, whatever, it doesn't matter. Maybe in your bass boat. And you've just left the shore, you can still see the shore. So there's a point of comfort there, simply meaning if anything were to go wrong at this very moment, while I might not be a great swimmer, I'm only 10 feet from the shore. I could get back there. I'm far enough away that if I had to dive out, the boat caught on fire, it sprung a leak, whatever. I could dive out of here and I am close enough that I can get back and I'm okay. So that's a calming place. That's a place of peace. However, when it is a distance from the land, a distance from the shore, meaning now I can't see the shore. If you've ever been on a cruise, if you've ever been on a big fishing trip, maybe out in the middle of the lake, out in the middle of the ocean, wherever, and you look around you and all you can see is water. If you are a person of a nervous nature, if you're a person that has a little uncertainty about things like that can be a little bit unnerving. Because now I don't have a place of refuge. Now I don't have a place of security and safety that I know without a doubt that I could get to. That's what this is referencing, okay? When it says that the boat that they had got in, that's life, is now a distance from the land, uncertainty has set in. Unsurety has set in, skepticism, all the other words that we can use. And so we read, as this is going on, it says here in verse 24, it says, meanwhile, the boat was already some distance from land, and then it says it was battered by the waves because the wind was against them. Battered by the waves. This storm was no joke. The battle is real. It's not just a little rough waters and a few little hard pellets of rain, maybe a little lightning, a little thunder. No, this was serious because it says the wind was against them. That is an illustration for life. There are times when our day starts, and the further we get away from the shore in our boat, the more uncertain we become when we're not walking in the strength of our faith. When we're not counting on the ability of the one who has given us life. John chapter 1 says that nothing was created that he didn't create, he being Christ. When we find ourselves farther and farther away from that land, from that shore, then we're only then leaning on our own ability. Now the Proverbs says lean not on your own understanding, right? But when we begin to lean on our own ability, well, that's limited. I can't fly. I can't swim the length of the ocean. I can't, we can think of all the things we can't do in a physical, literal sense. But how about emotional? How about spiritual? I only have the strength of what I draw strength from. And if I don't trust that, if I don't have a deeper knowledge of that, then that strength is very, very limited. What this illustration is giving us, it says the wind was against him. It's basically trying to say, I am trying so hard to get there. I am trying to get there. I'm trying to fight on every corner. Everything I'm doing is a battle. Everything, and it's getting harder and harder and harder. And I'm getting tired. I'm exhausted. I might even feel like giving up because I'm too far from the shore. And turning around now is not an option. I'm not sure what to do, but I know that these waters are too dangerous to try and swim. This is beginning to paint a picture of life without Christ. We're going to pick back up on this lesson tomorrow. I pray that you see the picture that I'm trying to paint for you. This is a beautiful story, but it has a powerful, powerful meaning. God bless you. Lord willing, I'll see you tomorrow.